I think that there are so many things that go um, into many problems, and I think this is great because in our two guests tonight, we've got everything from here in the United States to overseas to I mean, there's so much caring with our two guests, and I'm extremely excited to get started on this. But Stephanie, please tell us, what is a cause entrepreneur?
Yeah, so if you're watching the show for the first time, my name is Stephanie Simoes, and what I do with One Hope is I specialize in fundraising, gifting, private wine events, and wine delivery. I'm just so excited. I haven't met Lori until tonight, so I can't wait to hear about the foundation. And Dennis, I've worked with in the past, and gosh, when you hear about what the Price of Freedom Foundation is doing, it's a tearjerker for sure. I mean, I know we've had some on the show, Zach, and I don't cry very often, but man, we had a heck of a show the last time Dennis and I got together. So really excited to have them both here today.
Well, I just know that Lori and I got to talk about a month ago, and I mean, she's a ball of energy, and she's so excited about what she's got started, and I'm just excited that she's not only joining us this month, but she's also a community pay it forward mission partner, which means that we get to support her simply by using our program, and I'm extremely excited about that. So let's go on ahead and bring on our guests, shall we? I would
Awesome.
like to first, from the Landon Foundation, Lori Landon.
Hi.
How are
So
you doing?
I am so happy to be here. Thank you. I'm doing great.
Well, I appreciate you joining us, and especially, you and I were talking about this earlier, so getting you on here
Yeah.
is so cool, because this is what a better way to get started with our partnership than bring you on in and get it started right.
I'm ready. I am so ready. This is perfect.
All right. And then from the Price of Freedom Foundation, Mr. Dennis Schroeder. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing excellent. Just glad to be here with you and honored to be a part of what you all are doing.
Yeah.
Well, this is usually we were doing two organizations at once, and then we kind of scaled back and we were only doing one. But I'll be honest with you, with what Stephanie had told me about you, Dennis, and had already talked to Lori about this, this was this was just one of those times that I didn't want to pick and choose. We wanted to do both of them. You guys are both well deserving of what we're doing, and so we're extremely excited about having you. Um,
Thank you so much.
well, it's not a problem, and I look forward to getting this kicked off this month. And Dennis, let's hear from you. Why don't you tell us about the Price of Freedom Foundation? And first off, I want to welcome you and let you know it's great to meet you. I know that we didn't have a long time to talk because I was trying to figure out my internet prior to the show. Why I was saying something and then 5 minutes later my mouth was moving. But it's great to meet you, my friend, and tell us a little bit about the Price of Freedom, please.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Zach. Well, I think first I should tell folks that I am a retired Army officer. I served 24 years as a medical service corps officer in the United States Army.
Thank you, sir.
And I came from a Navy family. My father was an enlisted man in the Navy, served during the Korean War and the Vietnam War era. I have all of my uncles served in the Navy during World War II. I have a grandfather that served in the U.S. Army in World War I. Have a son and a daughter who have served. I've got a son who served a tour of enlistment in the Air Force and a daughter who spent 8 years in the Army Reserve. So I come from a very, lived my life in and around the military. And the Price of Freedom Foundation, I named it that because everybody who serves pays a piece of that price. But those who pay the ultimate price are those that we want to to recognize and to remember. And, you know, we have Memorial Day coming up, and our nation as a whole, I think, does a pretty good job of trying to help bring that kind of awareness. However, in talking with Gold Star families, and for those that may not be familiar with the term, a Gold Star family is defined as someone who has lost someone immediate in their family. So father, mother, brother, sister, son, or daughter. And that then makes you a Gold Star family or family member. The vast majority of them actually realize a year or two after they have suffered this loss that everyone else is getting on with life, but they still have this emptiness, this hole that's there, and people are forgetting. I mean, remember one of the very first conversations I had with a Gold Star mother here in the Nashville area. Her son was lost at sea in the Gulf of Aden back in 2011, and had a bridge in Franklin, Tennessee named after her son. But she was like, who passes by this bridge and even knows anything at all about him other than his name? You know, there you have the Pat Tillman family, you know, Pat Tillman Foundation, etc. They do a phenomenal job. Everybody knows who Pat Tillman is and knows his story. The vast majority of other families do not. So my heart was to bring those stories together, preserve them for future generations, and tell them in a truthful and honoring way to as wide of an audience as possible on an ongoing basis, so that we can help address that particular issue for Gold Star families. We got started about 4 years ago, and we are currently working with 4 families. Our first family that that came to us, we have completed the book. This is called A Silent Soul: The Machinist Make First Class Alfonso Abdel Amos story. And Alfonso was born in the Philippines. He served some time in the Philippine Army before he joined the U.S. Navy. He joined the Navy at the behest of his father, who wanted a better life for him and his family. And he met his wife also in the Philippines several years into his U.S. Navy service. They had 3 children. 18 and a half years into his service, he was lost at sea off the deck of the USS Kitty Hawk, sailing between South Korea and Japan during a storm at sea, and also as a part of a naval exercise that was going on at that time. And we called that book A Silent Soul because as we dug into who is Alfonso, he was a silent soul. There was not a single person that we found and interviewed that could say that they ever heard him talk about anything that was bothering him inside. He was the kind of guy that liked to make people laugh, tell jokes, play music, but he would never talk about what was going on. There's a possibility that Alfonso walked himself off the deck of that ship in the middle of the night. And the reason that we think that's very possible is because 11 years prior, he had cut his wrist in a suicide attempt. We were able to obtain medical records from the Navy, and those were very sparse. They returned him to duty after only 2 months. And we don't really know why he made that effort. He never would talk to his wife about it. We were able to interview her, and she said he never once said why he made that attempt. So, you know, and the fact that you are dealing with the subject of suicide, one of the things that I wanted to do when we first got this organization started was to say that we want to tell the stories that the families want to have told. So that includes suicides. There are some restrictions that the Gold Star organization as a whole has, and the fact of the matter is that if you have a son or a daughter who, or a husband or wife who commits suicide while they're on active duty in the military, you don't get to participate in the Gold Star program. I don't think that's right. And I think that those families need to be able to be heard and to have their loved one's story told truthfully, honorably. We don't want to make heroes out of everybody because, let's face it, we're all regular people, and that's the truth about just about everybody who served. But we don't want to shy away from the topics either. So we want to be able to talk about the difficulties and the struggles that they faced. But I think that Lori, as you said, every story is unique, and every person's story absolutely is unique. And so that's what we want to be able to tell is, what was that person like? How were they as a child? We want to go all the way back to the very beginning and find out, what interested them? What did they do well at? What did they struggle with? How did they impact the people around them? What were the influences on their life that sent them in the direction that they went? Was into the military, but what else did they have interests in? Music, art, church, whatever it may be. We want to be able to discover that and be able to tell that story. We are doing research on the other three families' stories right now. We definitely want to tell many more than that, because literally hundreds of soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines die every year while serving our nation. I mean, we just had 2 incidents close by. I live in Middle Tennessee, and in mid-February, there were 2 Tennessee National Guardsmen who were killed in a helicopter crash in northern Alabama. And just a little while ago, we had 9 active duty soldiers out of Fort Campbell that were killed when they're, well, we're assuming right now, we don't have the total information, but they were both medevac helicopters, and they were doing night training missions. And my assumption, having been in the medical field, is that they probably crashed into each other somehow. But all of those soldiers, they weren't shot at in a combat zone or situation, but they all were serving, and they all lost their lives. And these families now are dealing with that loss. And when they are ready to be able to talk in depth about this, we want to be there and ready to provide this service for them. So we produce books. We also, when we do interviews, we film, we record every interview that we do with the intent that we eventually want to create documentaries. Because while books are wonderful, I love books. I have 20 boxes of books I don't have room on my shelves for currently. But I grew up in a generation that was very bibliocentric. We do not live in a society that is bibliocentric anymore. We are in a videocentric society and world. And so we want to be able to tell these stories through video so that people will actually hear these stories. So we're not at a point where we can afford to do that production and editing now, but we want to create all of the raw content that is necessary so that when we do have that kind of support, that we can absolutely do that. That's really kind of how I got started with this. I mean, the real emphasis was that I had this idea. I had grown up in the 60s and 70s, saw the terrible way that veterans were treated when they were returned, saw all the negative press, saw the change in our society in the 80s and 90s with much more positive towards those who served, saw some really wonderful articles in Esquire magazine and GQ in the years after 9/11. And my thought was, this is great. I'm glad to see that we're getting positive stories being told about those who gave it all. But what about everybody else? Because in every one of those stories, that wasn't just that one soldier or that one Marine who died during that, but that was only one that they were focusing that story on. And so I just was frustrated with that. And I had been working a different job, working for a college of nursing, and was talking with a colleague, several colleagues, but one that came, that was the real motivation, was retired Marine Corps female drill sergeant. Okay, so she said, love this, because I was like, who, this can't be an original idea. Why is nobody else doing this? Why can't I go online and find some other organization that I can just help, right? She said, I don't know of anybody else doing it either, Dennis. Get off your butt and make it happen. So I was traveling a lot, 90% of the time on that job. And I was using the excuse, well, I've never written a book. I've never produced a video. I don't know anything about running a nonprofit organization. I just have this burning desire to help tell these stories. And about 2 or 3 months after I'd had that conversation with my friend, my job went away. And so for me, that was a sign from God saying, okay, stop using the excuse of time. And so that's what I've been doing ever since, is to pursue this idea, to communicate it, to get connected to people that have a similar heart. And we have progressed to this point. Is it gone as fast as I wanted? No, we're close. But we have produced what I think is a quality product for this family. The book will be published and released on the 24th of April, called The Silent Soul. And we will be doing a presentation of the book in hardcover format to the family. We're currently looking to hold this around Veterans Day. This is at the request of the family. I was thinking around Memorial Day, but they asked for Veterans Day. Most of them live in the San Diego area, so we're looking to do this on the USS Midway, which was a ship that Alfonso was assigned to twice during his career. So we have that coming up, but we really want to be able to help more families. And one of the things that made this possible was the fact that I had volunteers that could help me with this. The most important volunteer was our author, our writer. Keith Hayden is a Air Force veteran, Air Force Academy graduate, actually. He spent some time while he was in his active duty service, he was a criminal investigator for the Air Force. After he left active duty, he married another Air Force officer, so he's now an Air Force dependent living in Okinawa, Japan, at the Air Force Base there. But he's written 2 other books prior to this, one a work of fiction and one a nonfiction book on language learning skills. And he had this heart for wanting to do something like this, and he did a fabulous job. But it took him 5 full months of his life to put this together after we had done all the interviews and collected the military records and the photos and the videos, et cetera, and kind of dumped it on him and said, go to it. I can't ask him to do that on a full-time basis because, who can afford to do that? Now we are going to be giving him a royalty on book sales that we make, so that he will eventually get some return for what he's done for us. But we need more writers, we need more authors, we need more researchers, because one of the skill sets that Keith brought to us that I wasn't even thinking about and wasn't aware of when we got started is that in addition to interviewing the people that knew Alfonso, we needed to get other details. So what Keith was able to do was to take the ships that he was on, the times that he was on those ships, the military bases, the Navy bases in his case that he was took a look at where he lived and was raised when he was growing up, and he went and did background research on what was happening, what happened, on during that time that he was there, and was able to fill in the story a lot better than what I had collected. And so it became very clear to me that we need researchers who can do that and who can get those kind of details. So, of course, everybody could use donations, but I could really, really, really use a couple of excellent volunteers that would be interested and would love doing research or love doing writing, and that would really help. And of course, we have some volunteers that are video editors. They are very frustrated with me, though. We have over 44 hours worth of video from our first story alone. And what they really need is, and what I need, is a director, somebody who's a filmmaker, somebody who knows and can go and take this massive collection of film content and be able to narrow it down and say, okay, take this from here and that from there and that from there. I can't do that. That's not my skill. That's not my forte. And that's what my video editor volunteers really need. And unfortunately, I can't give that to them at this point. But that's what we're about. I mean, our second story that we're working on is of a soldier who was killed in a helicopter accident in Vietnam in 1970. Our next one was a explosive ordnance disposal airman who was killed in a roadside bomb in Afghanistan. The next story is a Navy sailor, another lost at sea incident, and more recently. So every one of these stories is going to be powerful when we actually compile them. I also believe, and because I saw it happen with this first family that we're working with, that it's been a voyage of discovery for every person that we've been interviewing and talking to. The fact that Alfonso served time in the Philippine Army before he joined the U.S. Navy was news to his children, who were in their late 20s to mid 30s. The older adults knew that, but they didn't think it was important. It was just one of those things they never thought to talk about. The man who was Alfonso's best friend in the Navy was the last person to have seen him before he disappeared. They had what are called watches, and so his friend was coming off watch, Alfonso was going on to watch, and they passed and said hello, etc. Well, when somebody disappears and you have a criminal investigator coming along, who are they going to put the most
scrutiny
shrews to? And that's going to be the person who saw him last. And oh, by the way, it was their best friend during their time in the Navy. Well, they had about a 3 or 4 month period of investigation. He was finally cleared of anything, but he had never seen the actual report. So we were able to do a Freedom of Information Act request. We got a copy of that report, certainly for telling the story, but also we gave a copy of that to him so that he could actually see what was said there and be able to find out more things that he didn't know. So we also are offering to living veterans the opportunity to pay tribute to their fallen comrades. So we definitely, to be able to produce a book or produce a video, a documentary, we definitely are going to need more than just one veteran. We're going to need the help or the permission of the family, but we don't need the permissions of the families to say, hey, if you're a veteran and you want to pay a tribute to a fallen comrade, you can do that. So we are offering that, and we've had a couple of veterans do that. And one locally was it had therapeutic benefits beyond what we ever imagined for him. You know, this was a Navy aviation mechanic who spent 9 months in Vietnam in Da Nang. The air base there, while he was there, was a very safe place. Very few attacks ever happened there. He went back to he was sent back to the States because of a shoulder injury. A couple months later, the Tet Offensive happened. Da Nang was overrun. A third of the guys that he served with were killed. Another third were injured. He went to a bunch of funerals, and that was really what prompted our conversations to talk about that. But he also mentioned that in his time there in Vietnam, he saw 30 seconds of combat. So I asked him to talk about that. You know, tell me about that. And what he said, they had these search and rescue missions that were on call. They had a helicopter that was always running. And when the alarm would go off, they'd get a crew, whoever got to the bird the first, you know, they were the ones that would go. He went on 3 of those missions. 2 of them were non-events. They went, they found the downed plane, found the downed pilots, were able to go in, pick them up. There's no enemy activity anywhere in the area. They came home. The last one, the exact opposite. Extremely hot LZ. They wound up having 5 gunships in the area to suppress the enemy that were coming in and also trying to find these pilots. He got off the bird, went to and found the co-pilot who had a broken leg. He was carrying him basically over one shoulder, about halfway back to the bird there out of the elephant grass, maybe 30 yards away. Popped what he said were 3 kids. Now, they were all in NVA uniforms. They all had weapons. They were all bringing them to bear. But he said they were kids to him. And he shot and killed all 3, got on the bird, went back. And that was how he explained it. You know, pretty much, you know, like that. The next day after we had finished our interview, he came up to me and gave me this great big bear hug. And he said, "Dennis, I don't know why it took me so long to agree to do this." He said, "But last night was the first night in over 50 years that I did not have nightmares seeing those 3 faces." So that was phenomenal. I can't promise that anything close to that will happen when other veterans talk about their service and talk about you know, their comrades who didn't make it back home. But I believe that there is a benefit to them all in doing so. And so that's open to any veteran who wants to have that conversation with us. We'd love to do that.
Well, you know, Dennis, that's kind of one of the things that, like I was saying earlier before I brought you guys on, is that not answering those questions, not letting them talk about it, is doing a disservice. We don't know if it's going to help them unless they tell us.
Right.
So, I mean, I think it's a great. It's beautiful. I love what you're doing. And just to throw a couple things at you, my grandfather. One of my grandfathers was a ground medic in World War II, and I have 2 uncles that served on the Kitty Hawk. Okay. So, you know, we've got, you know, so that's kind of neat that we've got a little bit of similarity.
Connection there. That's right.
So, Stephanie, you also had a very, very good question. Yeah, no, that is amazing. And I've learned some things tonight, Dennis, you know, since our last conversation.
Yes.
But how can people purchase the book?
It will be released on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and basically all the major retailers. And we are using the services of a publishing company out of South Carolina, Palmetto Publishing, that solved the problem for us. And it's like, I don't know if you want me to get into the details of book publishing, but it's like, it took me months to try and get around this. You know, we assumed that we could do print on demand and that we would be able to get a book that looks like the ones you see that are, as I call offset printing now, where you have text on one type of paper, and you have like glossy paper in the middle with the captioned photos. Print on demand can't do that. Now, we promised the families that we were going to provide the ones with the glossy paper in the middle. So we were at a conundrum. Okay, do we go with print on demand for everybody and kind of take a one step down in quality that we give to the families? Or do we go with offset printing and all of the huge costs associated with that, and trying to figure out, what's the demand going to be, and make not overproducing or underproducing? And what these folks came back with was what I think is a phenomenal solution. I don't know. They said, buy the smallest number of offset printing books that we can produce for you, and use those as what you give to the families. And everything else that's good will be done print on demand. So yes, if you buy it through Amazon, Barnes and Noble, etc., it will be print on demand, and it won't be that we won't have the photos in there. It's just going to be on the same stock of paper as the print is going to be. So, it's like, okay, I thought that was an excellent solution, and that the people who are interested in the book will buy it and recognize that they're really still getting a quality book. It's just the only real difference is that section of the photos is not going to be on glossy paper. It's going to be on the regular stock of paper that they produce it on.
No, that's perfect. Will there be a link on your website then, Dennis?
There will be. There absolutely will be. So I'm still working with them on some technical details. Bowker, the organization that has the monopoly, by the way, on ISBNs, and it's like I'm not fond of any organization having monopolies, but anyway, there's a lot of technical stuff we have to put into their system, and that's the last bit is in there now, and hopefully that'll be looked at, approved by them, and then the publisher can take and run with that, or give me instructions on what I need to do here in the next couple of weeks. But April 24th is our launch date.
Well, I would like to talk to you, Dennis, and find out if there's anything that we can help. I would like to offer my channels to you if
Great.
You would like to broadcast them this presentation live, and so people could see what you're doing. I would be more than willing to make that happen. I would love to see that happen, and I think that would just be something great for other people to witness, because I think what you're doing is remarkable. Lori, Dennis, both of you guys, I mean, the stories, every story is just, you lose your breath sometimes about, there's some simplicity to everything, but there's so much complexity to everything, and it's really kind of one of those things, Dennis. I one of the things that really struck me with what you were talking about, John Wayne Vogel's Martyred Angels, and Bart with veterans honoring veterans. They were two of the other people who they said the exact same thing you said. Well, there's got to be somebody out here doing this. What do you mean nobody's out here doing this? This is, how can nobody be doing this? And that, Lori, I'm pretty sure that you felt the same way, that it's like, how can there not be anybody out there doing this already? Which I'll just say, thank God, because this gives us a chance to, sit there and show our love for what we care about. And I think that, I mean, both of your guys' stories are fantastic. I mean, I'm just, I'm very, very honored that we get to share your stories with everyone on this. And Stephanie, why don't you please go on ahead and share with us what this wonderful, wonderful flyer is, please?
Yeah, sure. If you are not a part of our page on Facebook, definitely join us at the Community Pay It Forward One Hope fundraising page, because we update that regularly and we highlight these incredible organizations there. But that first QR code is to the Lori Landon Foundation. So if you take your cell phone out, open up your camera, and hold it up to that QR code, it will take you directly to the fundraising link to support the Lori Landon Foundation. And same with the Price of Freedom Foundation, right on the bottom there, second QR code just below. And if you prefer to just type the link into your browser, that's there as well. But I do have to say, man, both Dennis and Lori, they have such hard work that they do, but so rewarding. As I listen to both of them tonight, like my emotions are just like this. I don't know if it's because I'm really pregnant. Okay, I'm going to make a little joke here, but I'm like, wow, like just listening to them go through all of this, I'm like, such hard work, but so rewarding. And I feel like, you know, in one aspect we're saving lives, and in the other aspect we're celebrating lives. So there's like such a connection here, and in totally different ways. So thank you both for being here.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You know, Stephanie, if it's because you're a little pregnant or way pregnant, it's probably that I'm wayer pregnant. You know, I've been pregnant ever since I quit smoking 17 years ago. You know, I doubled in girth. So, you know, I would have to say that I'm probably wayer pregnant than you are. But, and you're right. These stories are extremely emotional. And I love the way that you put that too. You know, that this is a celebration of, you know, I mean, really it is. This is a celebration of, and Dennis, tell me this. There are times, have you yet, and I know that you're still fairly in the beginning of this, are there times when you've walked up to somebody and asked them if they're ready to tell the story and they say, no, not yet, but
yes,
we're getting to it? Because I know that was one of the things on February 22nd. We talked to a lady who she discovered her best friend just a few hours after she had taken her life. And she said, you know what? 3-4 weeks ago, I could have never talked about this story. Today, it did good for me.
right.
Though,
Absolutely. And I know I had the benefit when I was first getting started with this, that I made connections with the Army Survivor Outreach Services program at Fort Campbell. And I was invited by the chief of that program to join one of their national calls. They do this pretty regularly, but she invited me to be on a teleconference because they had like 70 people on there or something like that from all over the world. That conference call that I was on had as its featured guest speaker a physician from USUHS, the Uniformed Services University of the Health Sciences in Bethesda, Maryland, who was part of what is still an ongoing military survivor grief study, started basically going back to 9/11. And they've produced a significant number of professional articles in various different medical journals and the like. But what he was really there to talk about was some commonalities. And when I mentioned that the majority of Gold Star families actually realize that this fear that they have comes true, came from that. You know, he was from their studies that, but also from that too, he was talking about the fact that he wasn't talking directly to me, but in a way he was, because he was talking about the fact that there are a lot of things that these families go through. And one of the things that happens is that there, in many cases, is a feeling of guilt, especially in parents that had encouraged their children to join the military, and now their child is dead. And so until they can resolve that sense of guilt and shame over this, that person's not going to be ready to be able to tell their son or their daughter's story in a way that we would need them to be able to then communicate that in writing or in video. There are some people that just have anger towards the military, and they will probably never ever talk to us because they would associate us with the military. And so, and we recognize that not everybody's going to be in a place where they are able or willing to tell their story. But we intend to be around. I intend to make this what I dedicate the rest of my life to. And I hope that we can grow to the point that we can have somebody else to take the reins and take it further whenever the time comes that I pass from this world. But we want to be able to be here for whenever that family or that person, or maybe that daughter or son or granddaughter or grandson says, I really want to know about this relative of mine, and let's get started to do this. I had one connection that I made here at a networking event in Nashville, and her father served in the Navy in World War II, and in Korea, his brother. Well, actually, no, he didn't serve in the Navy in World War II. He served in Korea. He was a little too young. His brother had served in the Navy in World War II, and she wanted him to be able to help tell her uncle's story. And I sat down with him, and he just wasn't ready to do it. He didn't think it was important. And what the little bit of time that I sat with him and found out that his brother had been on one of the ships in Pearl Harbor. He had survived that. He had been a gunnery officer. He was on other ships and did other battles at sea. And his concern always was for his sailors, the men that he commanded. And the way that he lost his life was he was in Anchorage, Alaska, and he was about to fly back to Seattle to get married. This was still during the war. And there were 3 aircraft that took off, and his aircraft didn't make it. They don't know where, back then, all the ways of tracking things just didn't exist. And so his brother and others, the 16 or 17 others that were on that flight, were never found. And I felt that this was a phenomenal story. And he was the only living relative that knew him, the only living person that we knew that probably knew his brother. And at some point, when you no longer have a living person to interview, now we're just we're just historians. Yeah. We're doing the research, and we're trying to dig up correspondence and other stuff like that. But you lose a flavor, and the flavor that I got in that 15-minute conversation I had with him was fabulous, but he just couldn't see it. So, it's like, okay, well, if you don't want to do it, then I can't force you. But yeah. I really wish you would.
Yeah. Just a really quick point, and then I think we're going to hand this off to Stephanie to do her part. But it brings back memories of when Theodore Roosevelt lost his youngest son in World War I. He ended up living the rest of his life feeling a little bit of guilt, but always a little bit of pride. So it was hard for him to talk about it, not near as hard as it was for his wife to talk about it, but because he had always driven that into his sons, because the one thing that Theodore Roosevelt always held against his father is that his father did not fight in the Civil War. His father paid somebody else to do that. So, but he losing one of his sons, it took him a while to be able to talk about it, but he felt enormous pride and enormous appreciation for his son. And then, like you said, it's just, we can't not tell these stories, because these stories can lead to so much education and so much importance. Lori, your stories, what you're doing for these kids, they're building history. You know, uh, you're building futures. You're building hope. So I mean, again, Stephanie, I'm going to credit you for all credit in the world for the way that you said it, that we're celebrating life and we're creating hope. And I think this is so beautiful. And this is seriously one of the most, I think this is one of the most impactful shows we've had, just because you've got the two different sides here. And I want to thank both of you, Dennis and Lori, for joining us. And I would like to give you all just a real quick second here. Lori, can you please tell us your information? How can people find out more about you, other than let me do this here real quick. Other than going to this QR code right here, because they can find a lot of information about you by using this QR code, because you are a community pay it forward mission partner. And this QR code, you shop with any of our partners, you will be supporting the Lori Lending Foundation. So, but how do people get a hold of you?
I am on Facebook. I am on Instagram. I am on LinkedIn. On Facebook, you can actually go to the Lori Lending Foundation page and find me. We also have a website, www.thelorilendingfoundation.org. You can connect with me by cell phone. You can connect with me by email. I would love to connect and reach out and share and answer questions. If someone's interested and wants to know more about it, please reach out and connect with me. I would be happy to hop on Zoom or phone and talk with you and really bring you into what we're doing. Just so grateful to be able to share this out. And it's truly a beautiful mission, a beautiful cause. And awareness is my mission this year, bringing awareness and letting people know, and hopefully bringing people to join me in this opportunity of service globally. It's incredible. And I would love to share that with other people, not hold it all to myself. So
Well,
it's beautiful.
you know what, we are, I want to thank you so much for giving us a chance to be a small part of what you do. I am looking forward to a long relationship with you guys, and helping to build more futures. The concept of helping kids build something better is, to me, one of the best things in the world. I have always told people, and Stephanie, you've heard me say this more than once, I love my kids. Yours, not so much, but I think every kid deserves a chance, because if we don't give kids a chance, we can never see what they can do. And if we write kids off, we're doing a terrible disservice to them. Because if we're writing kids off without giving them a chance, they don't have a chance. So,
and these kids become our kids.
Yeah.
And we're serving adults as well. I don't want you to feel like we're limited to just children. We're serving anyone in need. Anyone.
Now, who needs adults?
Children in need.
No, we actually really need adults, we need
both.
Wine right now. So, but Lori, we encourage you to stick around and listen to the wonderful Stephanie talk here in just a moment. But Dennis, let's go with you. Give us some of your information, if you would, please.
Sure. Well, we have our website at www.priceoffreedomfoundation.org. We are also on have a presence on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and YouTube. There, you would do a search for the Price of Freedom Foundation, and we're there. And then on LinkedIn, you can find myself, Dennis Schroeder Sr., and Schroeder is spelled oddly, SCHROADER, and most have the OE in the middle, but OA. And I have a son, Dennis Jr., and a grandson, Dennis the third. So
Wow.
that's why I always put the senior there, and they're all adults now. So it's like I'm really old.
You know, that's
You,
what I always tell Dennis. What I've been telling people lately is, you know, what makes me feel the oldest. You know, sometimes when you go and they've got like that wheel for anything that you got to find your birth year. When
right.
you know, it used
Takes
to be like,
forever.
okay, you spin this wheel and it gets to your birth date right away. Now you take and you spin that wheel. You can walk to the bathroom and come back and that thing's still spinning, and you're like going, oh my
Yes.
God, really?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
but
So,
yeah, Dennis, Lori, again, wonderful stories. Thank you so very much for joining with us.